Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kokuyo. Thanks for joining me for meditation and sutra study. This evening's practice will consist of a 15-minute guided meditation, a reading from a Buddhist scripture, followed by a Dharma talk. The title of today's Dharma talk is Buddhist Reflections on 2021. It was a dumpster fire. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, well, that'd be great too. Now we'll begin as we do every Wednesday with our guided meditation. I'll give you a moment to get into position. The only rules are that you need to be comfortable. You need to be in a position that you can hold for at least 15 minutes without moving. If you want to lay down, that's fine. I simply ask that you please not fall asleep. If you'd like some instruction, what I like to do is sit cross-legged either on the floor or on a cushion. Back straight, chin slightly tucked. Eyes can be closed, or if you want to keep them open, that's fine. Just point them downwards at a 45-degree angle to eliminate visual distractions. Left hand goes palm up in the lap. Right hand goes palm up over the left. In Buddhism, this is called the meditation mudra. And we'll begin by just breathing in and out through the nose. Slowly, gently. On every inhale, we poke out our belly button slightly, as if we had a large meal. On every exhale, we relax. If we're wondering what to do with our thoughts, we simply bring our focus to the physical sensations of our breath. The feeling of air moving in and out of our nostrils. The expansion and contraction of our belly. The feeling of our clothing against our skin. We'll breathe in this way for about 2 minutes. I'll keep time. And if our mind wanders, that's okay. We just say hello to our thoughts and bring our focus back to our breathing. Wonderful. Keep breathing. Now we'll begin the visualization. We'll start by visualizing a fire burning in our belly, in the space behind our belly button. This fire burns like a campfire in the woods, and it's our favorite color. If we like green, the fire is green. If we like orange, the fire is orange. And as we watch this fire burn, we envision ourselves breathing in through our nose. And every time we exhale, we see ourselves blowing on the base of the fire, just like we would a campfire in the woods, heating the coals with our breath, making the fire bigger and brighter with every exhale. We'll breathe in this way for about 2 minutes. I'll keep time. Excellent. As we continue with our breathing, we envision a fire in our belly and a channel of energy going from that fire in our belly down to the center of the earth. And once we get there, at the center of the earth, we find an energy that's identical to our own. If our fire is blue, the earth's energy is blue. If our fire is green, the earth's energy is green. The Buddha relied on the earth to realize enlightenment 2,600 years ago. And now we'll do the same. With every inhale, we envision energy being pulled up from the earth, storing it in our belly, blinding it with the fire of our own enlightened nature. And with every exhale, we continue to blow on that fire, amplifying it even more. So with every inhale, we bring energy up from the earth, blending it with our own energy, our own fire. And with every exhale, we continue to blow on the fire of our spiritual power. We'll breathe in this way for 2 minutes. I'll keep time. And if our mind wanders, we say hello to our thoughts and bring our focus back to our breathing and the visualization. Perfect. Everyone's sitting so quietly and so still. Adding to the energy of the practice, supporting their other meditators. Now we'll continue with our visualization by sending a channel of energy up from our belly to the top of our heads. So we have one channel of energy going down to the center of the earth. We have the fire of our own enlightened nature in the middle, in our belly. Then we have a second channel of energy going up to the top of our heads. And with every inhale, we, along with our fellow meditators, will pull energy up from the earth, blending it with the fire of our own enlightened nature. And with every exhale, we'll see that energy go up, 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 out the top of our heads until it explodes like a volcano. You've had a challenging week, and now's our time to send healing wherever it's needed. We inhale, pulling energy up from the earth. We exhale, pushing it out of the top of our heads, covering ourselves from the bottom of our feet to the topmost follicle of our hair. We'll breathe in this way for 2 minutes. I'll keep time. Wonderful. You've all done a great job tonight. Sitting quietly, absorbing the energy of the meditation. Now it's time to bring our practice to a close. We'll begin by closing off the channel of energy to the top of our heads, pushing the energy down until it stops right where it started, in our belly. Then we'll close off the channel of energy to the center of the earth, pulling it back up into ourselves. Perhaps we give the earth a silent bow, thanking it for supporting us in our practice. Finally, we take a moment to notice the fire of our own enlightenment burning in our belly, reminding ourselves that we can call upon it whenever it's needed. But for now, we allow the visualization to fade. And we come back into our bodies by moving our heads to the left and then to the right, back and forth, feeling the physical sensations in our neck. Then we come back to center. We move our shoulders forward. And we roll them back. Noticing the physical sensations of the movement, the feeling of our clothing against our skin. Until we let them hang gently towards the floor. And now, if our eyes are closed, when we're ready, we open them. I'll give you about 20 seconds to do that. Thanks so much for staying with me this evening. I appreciate the support in my own meditation practice, and I hope I'm offering you that same support. Now it's time to begin our scripture reading. We'll be reading from The Center Within by Reverend Guillaume M. Kabose. Not necessary to have a copy of the text, but it's useful if you'd like to follow along. Today's reading comes from page 96, and the essay is called Fortune is Misfortune. I recently visited Plymouth Rock. The pilgrims came to the New World on the Mayflower. There were 102 people on the boat, and 2 persons died on the way. The pilgrims landed in a land where no one waited for them, and everything was unknown. Nothing was prepared for their comfort. They went through a struggle for survival. The pilgrims had a purpose of freedom, so they were willing to go through hardships and struggles. When we consider our lives today, our lives are very comfortable. Even more than that, luxurious. We appreciate some things, but our sense of appreciation is so shallow today. Unless we go through trouble and hardships, we really do not experience real appreciation. In a similar fashion, enlightenment is difficult to realize when everything is going well. In other words, fortunate people can be very unfortunate as far as religion is concerned. Most of you are fortunate people. You were born into a nice family, brought up with loving care, and never experienced real hunger. Your lives are comfortable and secure. Yet, because of your good fortune, there can be less motivation to deepen your awareness and appreciation of life. The same kind of point is made in the Bible, where it says that going to heaven for rich people is as hard as it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. When everything is going well, health is good, plenty to eat, enough money, perhaps we feel we do not need enlightenment. However, we need enlightenment because inevitably we will encounter trouble in life. We will have many problems, be they personal or social, physical or psychological. Having so many problems actually means that we have many occasions to become enlightened. When we become sick, we really appreciate good health. When we do not have much to eat, we really appreciate good food. Being fortunate is to be unfortunate, and being unfortunate is to be fortunate. We want to be happy, but we do a lot of things that cause unhappiness. We know overeating is a cause of trouble, but when food tastes so good, we overeat and thereby invite trouble. In the same way, when things are going too well in our relationships with our spouses or friends, we tend to take things for granted. We do not appreciate other people and create causes for our troubles. Many times, it is only through unfortunate conditions or situations that we realize the value of friendship, kindness, or love. It is ironic that through unfortunate events, we attain a fortunate life. Life is full of such ironic contradictions. It is important to take the time to think about the reality of life. We should take time for self-reflection and reevaluate our lives. We need to look into our own lives and realize that we really are fortunate, not only in times of good health and plenty, but we are fortunate in every way. All our misfortunes enable us to really appreciate life. Unless we have trouble, we will never appreciate peace of mind. Perhaps this is human nature. We take things for granted and never appreciate things when they are going well. When things go wrong, we become serious and look within. We look deeper into the reality of life and discover real appreciation in life. Real happiness is not what we have, but depends on our attitude and way of appreciation. When we learn that misfortune is fortune, we discover appreciation. Religion is nothing but this way of appreciation. So, it's the end of the year. 2022 is right around the corner. And I find myself, as I often do this time of year, reflecting on the months that have come previously. And I think it's fair to say they weren't pleasant. The pandemic that was only supposed to last 2 weeks to a month is still ongoing. Seems like we have a new mutation every week. There are supply chain shortages. There's political unrest. Inflation is through the roof. What to do? And for me, in times like this, and to be honest, I'm quite want to do, I always look at the sutras for guidance. And the teaching that came out to me as I was preparing for this talk is the first noble truth of Buddhism, which states, life is suffering. Now, that's a somewhat grim and pessimistic view of life. Some people may hear those words, life is suffering, and pull back. They might be afraid or put off, but I remember when I first started this path many years ago, the first noble truth was a beacon of light. I was overjoyed when I read it because I was suffering greatly at that time, and it felt good to have someone, even if it was someone 2,600 years in the past in the way of Buddha, acknowledging and validating my suffering. They didn't tell me that it's all in my head. He didn't say, look on the bright side, or have you tried yoga? I said, I'm hurting. And Buddha said, okay. And I've been walking this path ever since. And when we look at 2021, I think it's fair to say that there was a lot of suffering. And sometimes as spiritual people, we think we're not allowed to say that. It's neither good nor bad. If we're truly realized, if we're deeply enlightened, then good, bad doesn't mean anything to us. And that's just not what I see when I look at the sutras. Vasubandhu, in his wisdom, divided the Dharma into wholesome dharmas and unwholesome dharmas. Buddha himself had very clear values, very clear ideas of right and wrong, good and bad. So much so that he required his monastics to take hundreds of vows, ensuring that they weren't inflicting pain or suffering on other people or on themselves. So yes, life is suffering. And we suffered greatly in 2021. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And the first step, I believe, is acknowledgement. An acknowledgement that, yes, life is suffering. That life is hard. That bad things happen. That sometimes bad things happen to good people. We need to acknowledge and accept the fact that the world is largely out of our control. Now, we don't like that. We don't like being out of control. And that's perfectly normal and human. Going back to the beginning of human history, we've wanted to hold on to life and steer it like we would a car. So much so that in the time of the Buddha, it wasn't uncommon for people to engage in animal or even human sacrifices to do things like ensure that the sun will rise. There were special rituals that they would engage in, fertility rites, etc., to make sure that the crops grew like they were supposed to. We as humans want to feel like we're in control, even when we're not. And that's what made 2021 so hard. It's because it was completely and totally out of our control. The virus kept mutating no matter what we did. Inflation kept rising no matter what we did. What to do? Well, the problem with this "I'm going to take control of life" response to suffering is that it makes our hardship moralistic. Bad things, sickness, joblessness, death, etc., happen to bad people. Good things, health, promotions, long life, etc., happen to good people. And this, of course, raises the question, if bad things happen to us, what did I do to deserve this? Why me? I'm doing everything right. Why me? Am I bad? Do I deserve this? As I think about that, I remember before I practiced Buddhism, this idea of moralistic suffering, good things happen to good people, was so ingrained in my head that if I did something innocuous, like stub my toe while walking through the house, I think in my head, well, what did I do to deserve that? Sometimes I knew what I did, in which case my response was, well, that's what you get. And the other side of this is that if we see people having what appears to be a good life who don't deserve it in our minds, it adds to our own suffering. This person is wealthy, they must be doing something right. That guy got the promotion and he doesn't work nearly as hard as I do. What am I missing? What did I do to deserve this? Now, according to Buddhism, however, you didn't do anything. Buddhism states that suffering is a natural, normal part of life. Good people suffer, bad people suffer. Everyone suffers because everyone is alive. We don't deserve suffering any more than we deserve to have the sunrise, or we deserve to have the leaves fall from the trees in the fall. These things just happen. And when we understand that suffering just happens, we're able to deal with it more skillfully. We don't take it so personally. It doesn't hurt so badly because we've removed ourselves from the center of the equation. We're no longer the main character. Things aren't happening to us. They're happening around us. Now, that said, we're not completely left off the hook. We do, in Buddhism, have the teaching of karma. Cause and effect. And we are taught in the Sutra to plant roots of good virtue. Vasubandhu did an extensive study of the things that create good karma, the things that create negative karma. We're taught to build merit through our actions. The idea is that some things cause suffering, some things don't cause suffering. So if we do those quote unquote good things, chanting, meditation, prostration, sutra study, if we behave in the world with wisdom, compassion, mercy, etc., then we're more likely to have good things happen to us and to the people around us. We will suffer less if we behave accordingly. However, there's a big asterisk here. It's not as simple as good actions equal good karma equals good things will happen, or bad actions equal bad karma mean bad things will happen. It's more complicated than that. Karma tells us that suffering is part of the story, but it's not the whole story. We can think of ourselves as being on a river in a canoe. So when I was in Boy Scouts as a child, I earned the canoeing merit badge, and you learn the different strokes, the J stroke, and things of that nature. And you learn to put on your life jacket and how to get in and out of the canoe as you without tipping it over. What to do if you're in the front, what to do in the back. But the main thing they teach you when you learn canoeing is don't fight the current. If the river is going this way, you're going that way. That's just the way it is. If the river is going south and you want to go north, well, you find a different river. Because if we fight the current of the river, we exhaust ourselves. And then when we're exhausted, we can't steer our canoe effectively, and then we're in danger. So as we canoe down the river, we go with the current, but we steer our canoe in the midst of it. We go around the rocks, we go around the logs. We don't just run into them, but at the same time, we don't fight the current that we're subject to. Karma works in this way. We have the karma of the universe, the karma created by the people, the plants, the animals, the sun, the moon, etc. around us, the causes and effects that have nothing to do with us. This is indifferent karma, which we've talked about before. But we also have the karma, the cause and effect that is directly related to our own actions. This is effacious karma. So between the indifferent karma of the world and the effacious karma which we create, there's our life. Now, some of our suffering is effacious karma. We're doing it. We're tired because we chose to stay up all night. We're hungry because we chose to skip lunch. Some of our karma, however, is indifferent karma. The sun rose this morning because that's just what the sun does. We're stuck in traffic because other people in front of us got into a car accident. Nothing we can control. The indifferent karma of life is the river. The effacious karma is us in the canoe. Buddhism teaches us to take responsibility and control for what happens in our canoe, and to learn to accept the things that happen in the river. We don't worry about why the log is there or why the rock is there. We just go around it. We don't tell other people how to steer their canoes. We just pilot our own. Our suffering happens because we try to control the river and we ignore our canoe. Or we take the actions of the river personally. Why is it behaving in this way? Why is it hurting me? Instead of understanding that the river just does what rivers do. And it's our job to respond accordingly. 2021 was a very tumultuous river. It was a very challenging ride in our canoes. But we made it. We survived. And we can take the lessons we've learned from that ride on the 2021 river into 2022. To make that ride even more effacious. To make our suffering a little less. To learn to accept the things we cannot change. And to accept and to know the difference between what we can't change and what we can change. So the idea of karma, it's very important we understand that it's not punishment. The idea isn't, I touched the stove and I was punished by being burnt. The idea is if we touch a burning stove, the nature of the stove is to burn us. It's not punishment. The stove doesn't care. That's just what happens. So we learn to not touch burning stoves. We got burned this year. But we can learn to do better next year. If we think in this way, we exchange our theology of consumerism for a theology of grace. Now, a theology of consumerism is a very capitalistic notion of how the world works. Like I said, if we're good people and we do good things, our reward, our payment for our labor is that good things will happen to us. And of course, the flip side of that is if bad things are happening to those people over there, well, They must have done something to deserve it. This is a theology of consumerism, a capitalistic notion of religion. In Buddhism, however, we have what's called a theology of grace. All beings are Buddha. All beings are worthy of love, kindness, and respect. If bad things happen to us, well, we check. Maybe it's a facious karma. Maybe we did do something that caused these bad things to happen. Maybe we didn't. Either way does not change the fact that we are Buddha. That we and others are always, always deserving of love and respect. And if we think in this way, we learn to do the right thing because it's right, not because we want something in return. We understand that suffering, again, is part of the story, but it doesn't need to be the whole story. We understand that it's okay to say that bad things are bad. I'm hurting right now. Life is suffering. And we understand that once we acknowledge that suffering, once we see it, we're better able to respond accordingly. And if possible, maybe we can fix it. This understanding of life is called wisdom. This wisdom leads to compassion, and that compassion turns into mercy. We see this example in Amida Buddha, the Buddha of infinite light, known for his wisdom. We see it in Kannon, the Bodhisattva of compassion. We see it in Jizo, the Bodhisattva of hell beings, who is so merciful that he devotes his entire existence to teaching the Dharma to hell beings, ending their suffering so that they can be reborn in higher realms. And what's important to note about all of those beings is that they had tremendous suffering in their lives. Tremendous suffering. And they didn't turn away from it. But at the same time, they didn't take it personally. Woe is me, I don't deserve this. Instead, they saw the suffering, they acknowledged it, they accepted it, and then they tried to figure out, what can I do? Life is hard, but how can I make it less hard? How can I accept the things that are outside of my control and make better the things that are within my control? How can I pilot my canoe without fighting the river? So, how do we respond to 2021? Well, we could just say good riddance, that sucked. Try to pretend it never happened, but that's setting ourselves up for failure in 2022. Because if our mind is not pure, the world around us will never be pure. If we're on vacation in a tropical island, if we're in a cave, if we're in a nice, comfy house, if our mind is troubled, our world will be troubled. So we can't just say good riddance and we can't just try to forget it, but we can accept it. We can take this as a teaching that sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, and it's not necessarily our job to figure out how and why they happened. Sometimes there's no right answer. Sometimes it's just a bad situation. This is so screwed up. And in the acknowledgement that it's screwed up, we can find ways to respond well. I'm stuck in this river. What am I going to do about it? There's so much suffering. What am I going to do about it? That's the question. So some lessons I took from 2021 is that Buddhist practice is incredibly powerful and important. In my own times of anger or sadness, the practice sustained me in tremendous ways. Whether it was the meditation or the chanting or the sutra study, I found that coming back to the cushion put spiritual fuel in my tank, if you will, that helped me deal with the other things. I also was reminded of the teachings of interconnectedness and interpenetration that we learn in Buddhism, the fact that all of our fates are tied together. That we're all paddling our own canoe, but none of us are paddling alone because we are in the same river. The river that in Buddhism we call samsara. And so in the same way that I must think about my own life and my own household with my actions, I also need to think about the lives and the households of the people around me. So a we mindset instead of a me mindset. And finally, I realized and understood once again that I am supported by the entire world. There's a word for this in Buddhism. It's called tariki, or other power. And I learned just how much I rely on other power, or other people, to survive. The people who bring food to the grocery store, the people who make sure there's gas at the gas station, the people that maintain our highways and byways. Being separated from individuals throughout this year due to lockdowns and whatnot helped me realize how much I depend on those relationships. And I appreciate them even more as a result. So I think that's the primary lesson I personally will take going into 2022. Not just that we are all in this together, but that we all need each other to get through this together. Amitabha. So that's the talk for today. Hope it was helpful. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. So this was Meditation and Sutra Study. We do it every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, broadcast from this channel. Now, every Sunday, we do something a little less involved, also here, also at 7 p.m. But that is Dharma Sunday, where I take some topic from the news or popular culture, and I reflect on it from a Buddhist perspective, so tying canonical Buddhist teachings with daily life. Again, that's Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And finally, I want to finish by telling, this will be the last week we spend with the Center Within. Next week, we'll be starting a new book for meditation and sutra study, and that is the Abhidharma Samuccaya, also known as the Compendium of the Higher Teaching. It was written by Asanga, one of the founders of Yogacara Buddhism. And there are many religious texts in Buddhism. The sutras tell us that there are 84,000 doors to the Dharma. But the closest thing we have to a central text, at least in the Mahayana tradition, would be the Abhidharma Samuccaya. Because so many of our Mahayana Buddhist schools have this as their foundation. The Shikantaza of Soto, the koans of Rinzai, the Nembutsu chant of Pure Land, all have their roots in teachings which are found in the Abhidharma Samuccaya. So we'll be doing an extensive study of that, and then whatever tradition you yourself are a part of, my hope is you'll have a little bit better understanding of why you do things the way you do. So that's it for until next time. I hope to see you then. Amitabha.